Hi everyone. Today we're going to have a look at what happens when two cartoon characters, one of them purple, sit by a campfire and have a nice conversation about the moon while getting stoned off their asses.
Man, I love the moon.
Not nearly as much as you love weed.
Would you say the moon is masculine or feminine?
It's a rock.
Spiritually speaking.
Oh, spiritually! Well, spiritually it's a rock.
Our celestial father is most definitely the sun. It's because of our father above and our mother below.
I see Jordan is unfamiliar with the cowgirl position. The man doesn't have to be on top.
The moon is actually neither, which makes me think it must be more like a cousin.
Because cousins don't have gender? What?
But perhaps what's more curious about old Lady Luna is that her existence has actually never been explained by modern science.
Maybe you should actually look it up before you open your, yeah, I forgot who I was talking to. Never mind, go ahead.
Who needs science to explain things?
Smart people who want their explanations to be useful.
Right. I mean, I know you don't.
Are you implying that you do, Jordan?
But isn't it interesting that using science we can build nuclear weapons?
It's pronounced nuclear. Why is it that stupid people have such a hard time pronouncing it? Oh yeah, the stupid. Never mind.
But cannot even explain this most ancient entity that floats at our doorstep?
We can, and you would know that if you had bothered to look it up.
The moon is actually far too big to be a natural satellite of the Earth.
Why?
If I'm not mistaken, there is not a single other planet in our solar system whose moon compares in ratio to our own Earth-Moon ratio.
Well, that's true, but only because we no longer consider Pluto a planet. And the definition of planet is completely arbitrary, so yeah, you're completely wrong. There is absolutely nothing about the moon's size that says it can't be a natural satellite.
The current leading theory in science is that something like a Mars-sized planet-like rock came out of nowhere and hit the Earth, and then it became the moon.
No.
And when those physics didn't work out, they came up with a new theory that said that the same planet-like rock-like thing hits the planet, bounces around, and then hits it again, and then becomes the moon. Needless to say, the physics still didn't work.
Of course not, but no one says that. I've never heard of either of these theories. The current scientific understanding of this is that a planet that is being referred to as Theia collided with the Earth early on in the history of the solar system, and the debris from that collision became the moon.
Well, what the hell? Is there more?
You're clearly new. There's always more stupid when Jordan's involved.
Well, now that you ask, have you ever heard anything about it being hollow?
Yeah, I've already heard that, but yeah, I'm gonna give you a moment to finish laughing.
In November of 1969, NASA crashed a lunar module into the moon, causing the equivalent of 1 ton of TNT. NASA said that the moon reverberated like a gong for half an hour.
Yeah, that's because there's no liquid water on the moon, so the rocks there are, well, literally dry. They're more rigid than they are on Earth, and that means vibrations last longer.
It vibrated in a way as if it were hollowed out, with giant hydraulic damper struts inside of it.
Okay, setting aside that the moon is solid, you think that the reason the vibrations lasted so long is because of dampening. Okay, the point of dampening is to dampen, Jordan. Look, this is just as stupid as saying, hey, I want this hot air balloon to be lighter, so let's add some lead weights for ballast.
Want to know something else?
Always.
Then you may want to go somewhere else.
The surface of the moon contains minerals like titanium, but also processed metals like brass and mica.
Another claim that's completely new to me? Source, please.
It also contains something called uranium-236 and neptunium.
What the onk is neptunium? You mean Neptunium by any chance?
Which are both minerals that have never been found to occur naturally.
Except that they are, if only in trace amounts here on Earth. But on the moon they can form more easily because of proton radiation from the sun that we're shielded against down here. But it's nice to see that you're using the same arguments as Kent Hovind.
This means that at least some of the rocks on the moon are most likely synthetic.
Right, because creationist fraudsters are much more credible than actual scientists.
And while it's only a theory,
It's not a theory.
I wouldn't say it's illogical to come to the conclusion that it could be artificially created.
Then you need to look up the word illogical.
That's really intense.
Ah, I see the drugs are kicking in.
Also, you know the craters on the moon?
Intimately.
Exactly what is that supposed to mean? No, wait, forget I asked, I don't want to know.
Well, craters should vary in depth due to the size and impact of the various space rocks that hit them, right? We can tell that there was a difference in the meteor sizes that hit the moon by the diameters of each crater. And yet, how come all of them, across the board, are the same depth?
They're not, but even so, the depth and diameter of a crater aren't that closely linked. The diameter is determined by the diameter of the impactor, as well as its mass and its velocity, in other words, the energy of the impact. The depth, on the other hand, has more to do with the angle of the impact.
Mother of God. An impenetrable shell!
Mother of God! I'm acting!
Look at that quote from a NASA scientist. It's easier to explain the non-existence of the moon than to explain its existence.
Here's another one. The best explanation for the moon is observational error. The moon does not exist.
Context, please. I think you'll find that those were said tongue-in-cheek.
Oh, here. Read this part here.
David Icke's research led him...
I was waiting for that one. I've been waiting a long time for you to cite David Icke as a source. David, everyone in any kind of position of authority is a reptilian alien in disguise, Icke.
Zulu tribes speak of the moon being an egg. They symbolize it to be an egg for good reason.
Namely,
The ancient African and Sumerian legends talk of two brothers,
how the hell did the Sumerians fit into this?
Wawan and Mpanku, that emptied out the yoke and rolled the moon across the sky to the earth and caused cataclysmic events hundreds of generations before our time.
Citation needed. I googled for it, but all I could find were recipes for mooncake. But anyway, we're still talking about ancient folklore, so I really don't care.
I'm not sure how it fits. But this says here that the rocks on the moon are older than the Earth itself.
Once again, citation needed.
You know, I think I've only ever seen one side of the moon. I wonder why it doesn't spin like other planets.
That's a good question. On that topic too.
What? No bullshit explanation? Okay, I'll give you a scientific one. The moon does spin, but its rotational period is equal to its orbital period. That's why it always has the same side facing the Earth. This is a very common thing called tidal locking, and it often occurs when a smaller body orbits a larger one. Most moons in the solar system are actually tidally locked with their planets. The phenomenon is the result of the torque applied to the tidal bulges. The torque caused by, you guessed it, gravity! The rotation of the orbiting body causes the bulge to point not straight towards the other body, but slightly in the direction of rotation. This will result in a torque pointing slightly in the opposite direction of rotation, slowing the rotation down until it matches the orbital period. It will eventually lock both bodies, not just the smaller one. It just takes longer to lock the larger one as well. An example where this has already happened is Pluto and Charon.
Have you ever noticed that the size and position of the moon is exactly in the right place to create a perfect solar eclipse?
It's not as amazing as it sounds. First of all, the moon's angular size depends on from where it's observed. So most eclipses are not actually perfect. They're annular eclipses. That's when you can see parts of the sun around the moon. In the future, all eclipses will be annular because the moon is moving away from the Earth, currently at a rate of a couple of centimeters every year. Actually, what you should be saying is, it's amazing that we're just alive at a time where the moon is still close enough to allow for total eclipses at all. And if we weren't, well, someone else would, and then they would have been equally amazed.
You know, the moon actually holds the Earth in a sideways tilt. If we didn't have the moon, we wouldn't have the same length of days or nights, or experience the 4 seasons like we do. It also intimately controls the tides.
Okay, credit where credit is due. You got this one right.
You're right. And just like the tides, it even bends the water in our bodies.
Bend? Bend? What are you talking about?
That's why on nights of the full moon, there's always an increase of violent crimes.
Okay, first of all, no, there isn't. All reports of this are completely anecdotal and have absolutely no scientific basis. Second, the phase of the moon has nothing to do with its gravitational influence.
Do you think these things were deliberately introduced to the Earth? Maybe for a purpose?
It's a possibility.
Yes, of course, the space Jews did it.
What do you think that purpose could be?
Well, they say that the beings who put it there were trying to bring a new frequency to the planet.
Who are they? The space Jews? And frequency of what? How do you still not know what that word means?
Or maybe even provide us with some sort of resonation or gravitational wave.
Resonation? How the mouth forms sounds. What? You mean resonance, don't you? And you probably don't know what that means either.
I've read that the Earth isn't even in the right place in the solar system anymore.
Where did you read that? And right place for what?
The story goes that at one point, the Earth used to exist between Mars and Jupiter.
What story? And when was this supposed to be?
It may have even been slightly larger than it is today. But it was hit, and it flew off course, creating the asteroid belt.
That kind of impact wouldn't have that effect on the Earth's orbit. First of all, what you're showing in the animation is an impact that would push the Earth into a higher orbit, not a lower one. You'd need it to collide with something moving in the other direction if you want to slow it down. But then there's, of course, the fact that the Earth wasn't completely obliterated, and that puts a severe limit on the momentum of the other body. So, what? No, he didn't. Oh, come on, this Nibiru crap, that's just... No, that's so 2012. Can we drop the Nibiru crap already? No, he didn't. Okay, we'll look again.
But because of the impact of what happened, this planet was going to die.
Since there was obviously no life on Earth at that point, I don't understand what you mean by die.
And it needed some help to keep it spinning and keep its orbit proper. And thus, the moon was put there by some advanced alien race or a higher form of consciousness.
So, the Jews.
Who saw it as a requirement for the planet's survival. Maybe even our own survival.
Wait. Whoa. Okay. Are you seriously suggesting that humans were around at that time? This would have been about 4.5 billion years ago. And humans were alive back then. Humans predated the first living organism from which we evolved? Okay, I have a sincere apology I have to make here. I'm really sorry. I have referred to Jordan as an idiot. That was terribly wrong of me, and I sincerely apologize. Idiots, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to compare you to Jordan. I'm sorry.
Which would explain why the Earth-to-Moon ratio is found within the human energy field.
What the onk is that supposed to mean?
That's really amazing.
Yeah, that shit has to be pretty amazing if it makes you take this seriously.
Hey, I think you're really gonna love this.
No. Yeah. Combine some arbitrary patterns and look for combinations in the resulting pattern that you can assign some arbitrary meaning to, and then say that you've proven something, or that it suggests something, or blah, 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 blah. We've been over this so many times by now, I don't care anymore.
So what does all of this mean to us, Mr. Patch?
It means that your dealer sells some pretty good shit. Seriously, this whole thing sounds like two guys who are really stoned going, "Whoa, man, that's like amazing, man. Oh, I can like see time, man." Seriously. Look, drugs don't give you access to higher knowledge. They might make you feel that way, but they just onk with your head. That's all. And for those of you who think I'm barking up the wrong tree with this drug tangent...
Want some beans?
More than anything ever, Mr. Patch.
See? That is one severe case of the munchies. See ya.